Welcome back to those of you who are returning, and welcome to those who are here for the first time. My name is Bicycle Mark, and I am a citizen journalist. That's what I do for a living, and I'm okay with it. It's 4:30, so I'm giving a few extra minutes of babble for the people just at the door. And it is 4:30, so it's kind of like good morning camp. Everyone's just having their breakfast. Is that a Red Bull? It's breakfast. I wanted to come here today and tell a story that isn't mine, which is probably a stupid idea, but I like stories. I like stories, especially the ones that involve people doing good things in the world and maybe having a positive outcome. Sometimes I've had those stories in my own life, and in this case, it's a bunch of other people that I've been watching, reporting about, writing about, and I thought, instead of talking about me for a change, let's talk about this project and these people. And the topic, when I told them that I wanted to talk about them, they said, well, you should talk about the topic of mobile phones and ethics, not just what we're doing. And I said, okay, I'll do both. So we entitled it, Is This the Mobile Phone Gadget World We Created? Title, it's inspired by Queen. You know, they were singing about mobile phones. They were really ahead of their time. Today, if there were an ethical mobile phone, an organic mobile phone, I know you have questions and comments already, but let's just go with what I'm saying. Raise your hand, would you be interested in buying it, or at least trying it? No. And one more, raise your hand, have you ever pressured or questioned or been in touch with a company about making an ethical mobile phone? You never know in this room. Yeah. Okay, and at the end you can tell us how it worked out, because I would be curious to hear your experiences. The group of people that I'm going to be talking about, they're called Fairphone, and their role in this play of life will come in a few slides. But let's start with the big picture in this world. Everybody, of course, has a mobile phone. That's not new, although with time you find that even more people in the world, even the ones that never had a mobile phone, start to have them. Case in point, the people mining the minerals for mobile phones, well, they've got mobile phones on them, which I find to be kind of one of those moments like, what do you call that? Like when Marty McFly went back in time and saw himself. One of those moments. The Back to the Future moment. So the state that we're in this world is, in your phone right now, depending on which phone you have, there is a long list of minerals. And there's only a few places in this world where these minerals can come from. I'm betting you knew this already. But I'll mention it anyway because we have to start somewhere. One of the problems we have, I consider it a problem, is there's no real system, there's no foolproof system for sure, for tracking where the minerals in your phone come from. If you open it up, some parts may be labeled, many parts aren't. There's a couple of reasons for this that we'll talk about, but it's a problem if you want to know where the parts in your phone come from. And that's a problem for us, the consumers, but that's also a problem for even a company. Now, the question is, do they care that this is a problem, or is it one of those problems they find very convenient? And that's an open question throughout the talk today. Among the minerals that I'm going to focus on, because, for example, I'm not doing lithium, so you can walk out now if you really love lithium and you want to talk lithium. I'm not doing it. I'm sorry. Maybe later after dinner we can have some drinks and we can talk lithium. Not the subscription, never mind. Not the drugs you're on. One of them is coltan, the other is cobalt, and tin. These are sort of the three that I want to zoom in on, especially coltan, and these three minerals are very prevalent in the Congo. Some of you may have been to the Congo. I would love to hear that story later. And even the Pentagon has said, because of its value in electronics of all kinds, this is a strategic mineral, which reminded me of the old George Bush vocabulary word strategery. So I put it as a title for a slide. Coltan comes from basically three places. I'm sorry if you know of a fourth. I'm not talking about that. It's Canada, Australia, and the Congo. And apparently, Canada and Australia already know that their reserves of coltan will be exhausted within a finite amount of years. I think they can even give you the exact number. Whereas in the Congo, perhaps exaggerated, but we live in a world of exaggerations, they say that they have the largest reserves of coltan in the world, and that it's untapped, and that you can just stick a shovel in the ground in Katanga province, and you will come out with several minerals, especially including coltan. So obviously this makes Congo a very important place now and in the future when Australia and Canada apparently will run out of coltan. One of the themes that you've probably heard before, and I'll repeat here, is that coltan, the mining of it, the selling of it, directly funds conflicts in the Congo. It's not the only place that it directly funds a conflict, but it is, there is a link that has been made by many observer organizations, governments. It's no secret, the United Nations has reported on it. I read a report that it took a long time to read, and it was all about how the people who are mining or controlling the mining of coltan in eastern Congo take that money when it's sold and use it for weapons. As a matter of fact, they say the relationship between coltan going out and weapons coming in is a direct one-way, a two-way street, so to speak. Coltan goes one way, weapons go the other. And there's a civil war that's been going on in eastern Congo for over a decade at this point. Wow, we're getting old. And 4 million people have died, more than that really, but those are the numbers that are published. And this is all related to where the minerals in our phones come from, which is amazing because all we're doing is looking at a phone. We're interested in what it can do for us, for the world, and so on. But behind these objects, there are lives being lost and, well, a whole history of a continent and a country being determined. Let's move forward. Let's go to Congo. So a lot of this comes from research that people have done, academic research, government-sponsored research, but also my dear friends at Fairphone did a fact-finding mission where they went to Congo and they went to the mines in Katanga province. So I want to focus on Katanga. Congo is a big place. It's basically, I think it's the size of Western Europe, which is crazy. The province of Katanga is about the size of France. So if you've ever traveled around France, maybe it's like that. Maybe it's a little different. It's the world's 5th largest supplier of tin, which is of interest for electronics, of course. And they also have gold, which is obviously a big deal for your electronics and your teeth. Gold teeth. This is a photo from Katanga, near Lumumbashi, which is the capital. And this is after you've mined, they love how I'm skipping right to this photo. After you've mined the coltan and the whatever rocks you get out of the ground, you have to wash them. And so engaged in the process of washing are 7-year-old children, old people, women, former teachers who stopped teaching because, well, there were no students anyway. They're all in the coal mines, in the coltan mines. And the teacher themselves can get a better salary by digging in the ground for minerals to sell to middle people who then sell to mobile phone companies. So this is a photo taken at the beginning of this year. This is a list you can't read. I love to put things you can't read from where you're sitting, but you can perhaps read from your screen at home, in your bunker, wherever you are right now, your personal bunkers. And it's a list of companies that are currently operating in Katanga province, and they include names like Compaq, Dell, Ericsson, HP, Motorola, Siemens, Nokia. And yes, then there's a whole list of other companies that we've never heard of and we will never have to hear about because they make it possible for these minerals to be extracted, sold, resold, and eventually make their way to our mobile phones. If you want this list, I'll make the slides available, of course. And so then comes the question, like, we know this is a problem. You knew this was a problem before you walked in here today, and I appreciate that you still walked in. What do the big companies say? And you can find a few statements. I found an agreement from April that said that Apple, Motorola, a couple of other names signed on, lots of big names. They said that their goal is to be conflict-free in the makeup of their phones. And they made this agreement that says part of being conflict-free is they won't be taking minerals from places where there are civil wars anymore. To which people in the Congo, representatives from mining industry responded, "Are you trying to kill us?" And so then it becomes this conflict of, what are we going to do? Apple says they're going conflict-free, and they signed on to this agreement, a voluntary agreement. I don't know if you've heard of this place. Well, I don't know if you've heard much about how the United States, for example, loves to have voluntary agreements. So that's kind of like if you're a chemical company and you've been polluting, you should voluntarily clean up after yourself. We'd appreciate it. And that's basically how it works. You don't have to. So Apple has entered into one of these voluntary agreements that says they're going to be conflict-free, which is weird because if you rewind a few months, Steve Jobs was being interviewed by Business Week or one of these magazines I don't read unless I have to do research. And he said, you can never go conflict-free. Our problem at Apple is we just can't be sure because these minerals at some point when they come out of Congo, you don't know exactly where they came from. Was it a conflict zone? Because there are non-conflict zones in Congo. Katanga is one of those places, technically. So Steve Jobs once said he couldn't do it. Now he says they will do it. We'll see what happens. It is interesting, though, that you do get statements now from companies. Maybe you've read statements from different companies that you follow, where they now spend a little time telling you we're concerned about where the materials in our phones and our devices come from. So even though you might say, well, what good is it? Nothing is going to change. It's interesting that we now live in an era where these companies are at least this much worried that they're going to prepare a statement. There might be a desk dedicated to this, next to the water cooler on the way out, but still, there's a desk. This is a small breakthrough. I'm looking at the bright side. You may not like it. The other thing is this could be possible marketing shenanigans, right? I mean, it's hard to tell. When we go to the grocery store now, you might be a little skeptical of all the organic food. What certification is on it? Is it really organic? So there could be some marketing shenanigans, that's an industry term, going on, where companies pretend that they're conflict-free, dedicate a desk to conflict-free issues, but never actually do it. Again, voluntary guidelines and that sort of thing. Still, it's an interesting development, and it may lead to something else. So enter Fairphone. I don't work for them. I'm not specifically trying to sell their brand or anything, but I think it's interesting. Their two goals are, one, to produce an ethically responsible phone. Now, ethically responsible requires defining and redefining, because they've had to redefine it several times. Initially, it was about, think about it for yourself, what's ethically responsible? That the building of this phone, which means the getting of the minerals up until the phone actually goes into your hands, yes, even the guy selling the phone, he should be treated well over at T-Mobile, that the process should be ethical. No one should be tortured. No one should be held at gunpoint, forced to do the job. No one, yeah, there we go. I've started to define ethical. And then we can build from there. And then, of course, came questions. What about child labor? And there's no answer for this right now. Because when you go to Congo and you look at the kids washing the minerals and the kids doing the mining, they'll say, well, I'm paying for school. So I'm doing the mining so that I can go to school. So it becomes very difficult to say these are non-slave labor or non-child labor phones. So it becomes difficult. So there is a definition of ethical, and I've started to lay it out, but it's constantly changing. The other aspect, and the bigger aspect, I would say, of what Fairphone or anything like it is doing, these kind of movements, is saying that whether we build the phone or not, the point is to pressure companies to say, you know what, we do give a shit where our phones come from. We do care if these minerals come from places where people are killing each other over them or the money from their sale is being used for killing. So it's both the production of a device, which I'm sure excites a lot of you, but also the movement, the pressure, the issue, raising this issue in our world. So just to go over the process a little bit, in case you don't know, I didn't know this a year ago. I learned after their journey. Just in Katanga, because the rest of Congo is another story. You have places where people are in a labor camp and people are holding guns and sort of watching workers while they're doing the digging. I mean, it's not that kind of a place. We're talking about a place where people on their own who have acquired a plot of land just start digging for themselves. They're digging using the most basic tools. They do it barefoot even. I used to think that it had something to do with they can't afford shoes. No, they just prefer to go in without the shoes. So it's a whole other culture of mining that I'm not used to. The artisanal miners get the minerals out of the ground. And of course, when you get this, I'll show you an image in a second probably. But you get this block of stone and there's different layers to it. So you wash it and then you can see it better. And so some people, maybe some of you, when you look at stone, you can see, oh, that's coltan. Oh, that's just rock. And then based on this, you can sell what you've mined. And you can say, well, look how much coltan is here. It's got to be worth $50 or whatever it is. The problem is miners get this out of the ground and they don't know exactly what they've got. They can see something so they can make an estimate, but there's no precise measurement. And then they go and sell it to someone who's also not exactly sure what they've got, but is going to give them a tough time on the price. And we'll get more into this process in a second. Then come these, what did I call them? Middle ladies. There's a whole clan or culture of women who buy the minerals from the miners. And like I said, they negotiate tough. They give shit prices, and the miners don't really know the going price anyway. Not as much internet connectivity in the mine these days. So they're kind of playing a guessing game, and these ladies are said to be extremely tough, so tough I don't have a photo of them. And they give them whatever price they give them, and they move on. After these middle ladies come, then come you see more international people. There's the Lebanese, there's the Chinese, perhaps some Europeans. I didn't hear so many Europeans, but they could be in there. And they come in and they buy from the ladies. What's interesting about these guys is some of them may have a tool. Forgive me for not having the techno jargon down, but I believe it's like a spectrometer. It measures the rock. You can correct me later. And it says what percent of what is in this rock. And this is super important because if you're negotiating a price, well then knowing exactly what you have would allow you to, one, negotiate better, and as the buyer, know what you're getting. So only at this level, when these foreign companies, these middle companies come in, do they actually, after they've bought the minerals, check what they've got. And so they're also bidding quite low. So everybody's getting screwed on the price because you look at some stone and you could see some lines of maybe coltan and you say, it's probably worth 40, and you bid low. Then when you get to wherever you have your tool, your spectrometer, you measure and you go, oh, yeah, actually it's more. So that you tend to always win in this deal. I think the only people that are losing are the miners and maybe that lady who buys from the miners. Whoever doesn't have the tool to measure is bound to lose. So the big problem that I've started to talk about, and they asked miners, they interviewed miners. I'm not going to play the video here. I find watching videos in bunkers makes you sleepy. That's what I find. But they say, what we really could use. So Fairphone asks them, do you think you get a fair deal in this world? And of course they say no. I mean, that's not a surprise. But very specifically, they say, we would like to know market prices for our metals, for what we're mining. We don't know. We would like a way that the price can be controlled, so we know what's the going price this week, yesterday, and so on. So there needs to be some kind of system for this. The other thing is what I've also said, detecting what they've got. These tools, these spectrometers, I have a photo coming up of one, they go for something like in the range of 2,000 euros, maybe less, I haven't checked in a while, but it's in the thousands. Very difficult, obviously, to get one in the Congo. So one of the suggestions was, if you could get us one of these tools, well, that would change our life, because we could measure before we go to sell what we've taken out of the ground. So this makes you think, can we get these guys this tool? At 1,000, 2,000 euros a piece, how many are we going to buy and bring to the Congo? And how do we know it's going to be used fairly and not taken by someone and no one else can use it, and so on? So these are all questions for any movement, any organization that wants to embark on this mission. And the other problem is, of course, dishonest people. There's no solution for that, but the being able to detect what you've got would help, so that if someone is giving you a low price and basically giving you a poker face, lying about what you've got, if you could measure it, you could go, that price sucks. Look, I have this much tin. There's the spectrometer. I don't think it's the exact one. I went looking on Google for a picture of a spectrometer, and that's one. Probably not the model that you want. But the idea was that this would empower miners by having this. The other things that many miners said, and this becomes very difficult because you get involved in politics, but everything is political, but in the Congo, they said if we had a cooperative or a union, the union could represent us. It could make sure that each of us within the union is getting the right price. If there were a machine, a spectrometer, it could be in the union office. And there were several people saying this, and it makes me wonder because we live in an era where unions are hated, and for sure, if the union leadership becomes friends with Joseph Kabila, well, that's the president of Congo, this may not work out. But one of their wishes was to have some kind of a cooperative or a union, something to think about for the future. So what did Fairphone do after all this, after all these questions? Well, very simply, instead of going to the ladies or the Lebanese or anyone else, they bought minerals directly at the mine, which is kind of weird. You can look it up. You can watch the video of this. They were there while they're purchasing. And they basically came back to Schiphol Airport, because they live in the Netherlands, with 2 bags filled with rocks. Yeah. They even washed them in their bathtub instead of out in the field in Congo. And the idea is that, which is where we're going next, these are the raw materials to build the prototype. The other thing that they did was they held these meetings. I've been telling you about what was said at these meetings, where miners could come, the middle people could come, and we could talk about what's not working in this whole world of mining, from the process of mining to the actual building of the phone. Of course, when we get to assembly of the phone, we have to leave the Congo. I think we have to go to China. That's one of the next steps. So back in the Netherlands, at the Waag, if you know the Waag, they've made their first attempt. I haven't had an update lately. I don't think there was any accident, but they made their first attempt to bake a battery using the minerals, and it didn't go so well. It hasn't worked out. And so this question of can they build the prototype is still hanging. I know you want to see the prototype, like 3 people are leaving now. I don't have the prototype. I skip to the end of the film. Nothing happens. No. So there's been no success yet with making the battery, and if you've ever tried to make a battery, I haven't, it's probably fucking difficult, right? So one of the biggest problems is going to be this, because you can guess that there's plenty of people that want to do the software. The assembly part becomes interesting as well, because you can perhaps find ethically responsible companies that do assembly, maybe somewhere in China. Where's Mitch? And so what's even weirder is you would think that all these, well, again, shenanigans, but once they start doing this, people start noticing. When they've come back from the Congo and they've been asked to come to Brussels to have a meeting with the European Parliament about what Europe is going to do about ethically responsible minerals and electronics, suddenly this big bank in the Netherlands, Rabobank, which has, their what do you call it, your good deeds office, you have to do some good deeds, and they're known to do quite a lot. They said to Fairphone, well, we're interested. If you're building the phone, we'll help you with whatever resources we have for this type of project. Even stranger, or perhaps not, a big telecom, KPN, the big Dutch telecom, said, you know what? You're making an ethically responsible phone. Again, here comes capitalism. We know that our people, our customers, would want this. Everybody that raised their hand, right? You're not KPN customers, lucky you. But many people in the Netherlands, just as an example, would be interested. So now the company is interested. Market forces, I guess. So they're saying, you know what we'll do, among the things we can help you with, we'll introduce you to Nokia. And we'll take you there, and we'll walk you right through the front door, I don't know. And you can talk to Nokia about any experiences they've had trying to do this, and also assembly, where you could go next, because after the minerals, we got to go on, right? And so this is where it's gone. Now Nokia is involved, and Nokia doesn't even make phones anymore, right? I think they just buy them. They don't have any factories. And it's true, they don't have any factories. I think Sony Ericsson still has a factory, which is so cute. Yeah, I'm going to open my own. So that's where we're at. Suddenly all these big names are interested in the project, and you might say shenanigans, which would be cool if you said it once. After a while, it's annoying. And so where to next, right? I mean, Finland next. Could be China for the assembly, and then you got to figure out, what's ethically responsible on the assembly side. Brussels has been taking these meetings. There's this terrible act, or law or act in the U.S. Congress right now. It's not terrible. It's long. It's terribly long. It's called the Dodd-Frank Act. And if you have a child who's crying a lot in the family village, pull out Dodd-Frank. It's about 700, maybe 800 pages. Somebody correct me. It's long. It's so long, it's actually about the stock market and controlling banks. And in the fine print is, we shouldn't have conflict minerals in our electronics in the United States. So if it really goes through, and if these clauses also are accepted, technically it would mean the US has one of the first laws about not accepting conflict minerals. If it happens. I've heard this bill is never going to make it, or I don't even know where it is anymore. Also becomes, maybe it's voluntary, so voluntary laws. So Brussels is interested in perhaps doing something. When they had their meetings with Fairphone, they also invited the big major telecoms from around the union, and Congolese civil society, mining associations came, and basically they said, if you do this, you're going to kill us. Because let's say we can't end the conflict in eastern Congo, then you're not going to buy any more minerals from this area. So the economy there will collapse because everybody's mining. Even the bread makers stopped making bread. Food prices in Congo are higher than anywhere in Europe because nobody does agriculture anymore. They're all mining. So these people who are all mining, now if nobody buys their minerals, then we come to the other problem in this equation. Suddenly they're not making any money. You might say, well, they'll go back to farming. I don't know. We don't know. But there's definitely a collapse involved if we make this change. So I think this is what you call a dilemma. I'm not sure. Yeah. Oh, and so the other thing that's going to happen is Fairphone wants to return to the Congo and now look into another issue. I've talked a lot about coltan, maybe look into tin down the line. Maybe they have to go somewhere else like Bolivia, where the lithium for the lithium batteries comes from. Salt flats, people are being taken from their ancestral homes so that we can have more lithium batteries. It's amazing. So the bigger picture has revealed what I've been talking about, that if we do what I'm talking about doing, no longer buying from conflict areas, we risk collapsing an economy. But maybe in the long term, maybe it's worth it, right? No? And so the questions remain. Maybe are companies serious? Is Apple serious? Are customers really concerned? I mean, if I show you the prototype for Fairphone and it looks like Gordon Gekko, Wall Street phone, are you going to buy that? I think you might because it's retro, so you might carry around. I'm sure someone at this camp has the old mobile phone with the little backpack. But are customers really serious? Because I don't know about you, I know a lot of people, I don't think they're my family members, I hope not, but they say, I'm not buying organic, it's too expensive. Oh, that's my dad, yeah. I'm not buying organic. It's too expensive. It's stupid. It shouldn't be so expensive. And so he won't buy it. And it's hard to convince people sometimes, even if they say, yeah, it's a good idea that people be treated well at work, that maybe food and phones shouldn't be compared. All right. Then the question is, will this Fairphone ever be made? And the answer is, I don't know. And then comes that classic question with the collapse of the economy and Amy Winehouse. Too soon. Will we stay focused on this issue? Wall Street is quite a big issue these days. So maybe we'll forget that we're worried about, I was putting this thing together and I was like, where are these pieces from? But maybe we'll forget about this issue. Maybe it's too difficult, so we don't want to look at it. You're going to have a lot of talks here at the camp about software maybe bits on e-waste. That's interesting, e-waste recycling. But it's a very difficult topic to talk about. I mean, look at me, I'm drowning here. And maybe this will discourage any action on this front. So it's hard to tell, what will happen to us. One place where we could find minerals, if we really wanted to, is right here at camp and or in your neighborhood where you live. This year, Fairphone is conducting a urban mining exercise at Lowlands, where you can swim in a pit of old mobile phones, which is, I guess, cute. Then you're encouraged, I don't know how you're forced to do it, but to take apart phones, to all the bits and pieces and make piles of each mineral. And this is urban mining, at a concert festival, but still. We might get into urban mining around the world, and there are companies that are doing it slowly on a small scale. But when coltan becomes scarce, and the only place you can get it is a war zone where people are dying over it, maybe getting it from Finofort, Germany is an interesting option. So let's go urban mining. That's it for my talk, believe it or not. Fairphone.org is the key website. And at Bicycle Mark is where I try to write things in 140 characters or less. If you want to talk about experiences or comments, we'll get the microphone over to you. If you want to ask me questions, that's a tough one because that's a tough one.
So if you have something to share, some ideas or questions, feel free. There's microphone and you can just share your thoughts. Okay, so people are as amazed as everyone. Yeah. You blasted them away. Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you.